How many of you out there would like to have perfect rhythm and tempo just like that, or feel like Ernie Els every time you're over the ball? Well, most of us would, of course, because it leads to more consistency, better ball striking, more distance with more power with less effort. And the key to that is understanding how sequencing works in the golf swing. When you sequence the golf swing correctly, everything seems to just magically fall into place. But that magic elixir seems pretty elusive for most of us, and that's why the GForce Training Egg was invented, because this flexible shaft is the key to unlocking your distance and consistency potential that you've been looking for in your swing. The soft shaft obviously seems a little strange at first. When you're used to playing steel shafted clubs, this feels pretty crazy. But what it's going to do is reveal every single little minute swing flaw that you may not notice and get away with your regular clubs, but they show up in rounds of golf where you start struggling, not knowing where the ball is going, and you feel like you're just completely lost. This will help recenter your swing, get your rhythm and tempo back on, and get you sequencing the swing correctly. The way that you want to start with this is half swings, because most golfers, when they pick up this club for the first time, the ball goes a mile right, because they're so used to pushing the club through with their hands that the face doesn't ever get a chance to square up and release. And again, with the stiff shaft, you can cheat and kind of use your hands, and typically that's the right hand for most amateur golfers, and that's why they look like this, where their left arm's broken down, left wrist is broken down, and they're pushing against the shaft in a desperate effort to square the face. Well, what you need to learn how to do is let the club release naturally. The visual for that is, imagine a grandfather clock. As I had this pivot point up here at the top, the club's naturally going to open a little bit and square a little bit depending on the angle, the plane the club's being swung on. Now what happens is, as soon as I start trying to push this butt of the club through, the club face, you'll see, stays open. But if I allow it to square up and release, it naturally squares itself on its own. That's the key to consistency in the golf swing, is not trying to make the club square up every time, but allowing the club to square up. And this training aid is perfect for that, because it forces you to allow the club to release in order to square the face. So at first, you want to do our little rotary swing 9-3 drill, where we're working on body rotation to help bring the club back, shifting our weight, posting up, and then release. Now this is the key. This release is completely passive. You're not trying to flip the face over, and at first you'll probably be tempted to do that, because you're going to see a lot of shots go to the right when you first start working with this training aid, because the torque on the shaft allows the face to stay open unless you have a proper release. So this is going to show you immediately when you're not allowing the club to release correctly. So to check that, as you get into this release point, the toe of the club should be toed up. When viewed up the line, it's going to look like that. If it's like this, that ball is going a mile right. You're costing yourself a ton of distance, and you're costing yourself consistency. So get the feeling of being like that grandfather clock. You can practice one arm at a time, right arm only. This is my pivot point, just like I was doing this earlier. And then I can practice left hand only. Now my left shoulder is the pivot point, but I'm allowing the club face to naturally rotate. It doesn't feel natural to do this. I'm having to stop the club face from rotating. You'll feel this feels terrible. But as I allow the club to naturally release the way it wants, my wrist naturally does this. I like to think of people, when I'm telling them how to get the club going back properly in the takeaway and the release, I like to think about shaking hands. As we go back, you're going to be able to shake my hand. Impact, we're going to shake hands. And here, we're going to shake hands. It shouldn't be like this. It's kind of a weird handshake. So let the club feel the swinging, or let your arms feel the swinging motion of the club, feel the weight of the toe of the club wanting to naturally release, and work on this at home 20 or 30 swings a day just to get the natural swinging motion, the feel of the soft shaft, how it works, how you load the shaft going back, and how you release it. And then just hit little easy shots at first. And what you should find as you're working through this, if you check and hold your release on every shot, if that club is toed up and you didn't try and flip it over, that means it released naturally. The ball come out nice and straight without you having to do anything. My hands were super dead soft when I hit that shot, and I'm just feeling the weight of the club. And the feel is so much easier to develop when you have this soft, flexible shaft. And you can do this with every club in the bag. And the GForce has a pitching wedge, 7-iron, and driver. So you can translate the feel to your short game, to your mid irons and all the way up to the driver, because you can actually, unlike a lot of training aids, you can actually hit balls with this one. So not only is it a great training aid to use to warm up on the range, to get a feel of rhythm and tempo for that day, but you can actually hit balls with this and hit them as hard as you want. So with the driver, same thing is going to be the case here. You don't want to be trying to swing hard from the top. You've got to allow the swing to sequence and unfold naturally. And with rotary swing, the first thing we do is teach you to shift your weight. Then we're going to teach you to rotate your core. And then we're going to work on releasing that club. The driver is going to help you feel that. So at first, don't try to hit these hard. You want to just work on getting a feel for the club releasing, loading the shaft at the top, staying loaded coming down, and getting into that nice natural release. And if you do that correctly, the driver will fly straight and true. Woo! Hit that as good as my normal driver. So, if you want to work on your rhythm and your tempo, the GForce Training Aid is perfect for teaching you sequencing, teaching you how to transition without railing at the top with your arms and hands, learning how to use your big muscles in the swing. You'll be more consistent, you'll have more distance, and you'll do it with less effort.